Welcome everyone on this thematic presentation, Hygiene, the body and its function. Hygiene is another aspect of ceramic that's often overlooked, and it's a quite important aspect, and it is taking a greater and greater importance in contemporary ceramics. There are bathrooms being made all over the world. This one is at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Shanghai, China. And as you walk into it, you think that you are engaging with the beautiful decorative pattern on the wall. And closer examination makes you aware that it's actually created with very rude and quite confrontational written text. We've just seen the importance of text in ceramics in the previous theme presentation. And you can see here how text, decoration, and bathrooms can come together to create cultural experience of great efficient power. Now, of course, bathrooms are quite funny. They engage with humor in all kinds of ways, and I have many examples of that. There are restaurants in China, I know of two of them, I'll show you the other one later, with a bathroom theme. You sit on a toilet and you eat in dishes shaped like toilets and urinals and so on. So many artists are investigating bathrooms in all kinds of ways with logos. You go on the internet, you find all kinds of examples of that. It's a very popular thing to do right now. People going to bathroom factories, as we will see much later in this presentation, and organizing bathroom forms, toilet forms, sinks, and so on in all kinds of ways that engages with their experience in a new way. I've shown you the work of Maurizio Catalan before, one of the great stars of contemporary art, engaging again with references to toilets and bathroom on dinnerware. Robert Gober, another star of contemporary art in the United States, does the same thing, because bathroom implements, and everything that happens there are great material to engage with psychological issues around human behavior, human bodies, dejections, and so on. They engage with the abject in very exciting ways. And of course, such a presentation could not escape the importance of fountain, the Marcel Duchamp object from 1917 that you see here on the left as a reconstruction from the early 1960s. The object itself has disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore anywhere we know anyway. Probably is in some refused garbage dump somewhere near New York, I would believe. And on the right, this is a very small version of it as a miniature ash tree that I've made. And many other artists for quite a while, since Marcel Duchamp did his famous fountain in 1917, have reworked that idea in all kinds of ways. The Artist is a Fountain by John Baldessari, another big art star of contemporary art, in his Bedpans repository. Babak Golkar, an artist originally from Iran, with his Middle Eastern version of a fountain. Another artist from Iran here reworking again Duchamp's idea within the context of Middle Eastern politics. And it goes on and on like this. There are quite a lot of, in the recent past, in the last 10, 20, 30 years, who have engaged with this idea of doing something else in various contexts with Duchamp's idea. And people do that with references to Chanel, to breaking a urinal and reassembling it as a vessel, or decorating it with all kinds of surfaces coming from various cultural references. References to money, of course, with Pilavi on the left, and male and female version of the urinal on the right. A urinal as a vacuum cleaner, a urinal as a series of urinal as actually a working fountain where water is engaged at the level of plumbing and is released at the top and drips all the way down to the floor and is recycled in this installation, site-specific installation by Reese Terris. And this is just a selection. There are way more. It's been almost an obsessive way of addressing fountain by Marcel Duchamp in all kinds of ways, painting it, installing, just finding an object that is exactly the version that Duchamp used in 1917 and then re-signing it with Armat 1917. Making, doubles that are connected. Again, it's the way bathroom implements and bathroom fixtures and bathroom as a site speak of human connections, of communication, of psychological states, of issues around fashion, and what happens if it is made out of rubber instead of porcelain. What is the meaning of the fact that it is made out of porcelain, and what happens when other images around feminist issues, issues of self-representation, of narcissism, the references to nature are inserted into this context. And it's made in all kinds of ways by so many artists right now all over the world that it is quite interesting to consider the meaning of this. Why so many people are using references to Marcel Duchamp's fountain to make all kinds of works right now. And Lady Gaga herself signed a urinal. It was put to auction, and it did sell for $460,000. So I'm guessing that if Marcel Duchamp's original was ever found in a refuse somewhere in the suburb of New York, it would probably sell for even more money. It is, in many ways, the most iconic and celebrated and famous object in the history of 20th century art. And I have quite a few more here. I've shown you the work of Merda Cotta in the context of food before. This is work made with shit mixed with clay and then made into all kinds of form, including toilet bowls. Of course, all kinds of very funny urinals are being produced right now. A male urinal, a no-touch urinal that handles your equipment for yourself. And in a bar in Vienna, you don't even have to go to the bathroom. After you've drank your beer, you can piss it off right into those mouth-open urinals. This is the other restaurant in China I was telling you about. And Clark Sorensen makes urinal in all kinds of wonderful forms, like flowers, sometimes introducing political commentary as well in his work, because it's a great place for such things to happen, for all the obvious connotation they generate, like this toilet wearing a wig, which doesn't require any comment whatsoever. So design and sanitary wares are also very fertile ground for new inventions and the expansion of the experience of using those tools, and at the level of form, but also at the level of action itself. At the Schiphol airport in Amsterdam, they have inserted the decal of a fly into the urinal so that people will aim at the fly to kill it, and in the process reduce dripping on the floor by 60%. This is called a nudge urinal, and nudge is a way to control your behavior beyond your knowledge so that you do something without realizing you're doing something else, which is preventing dripping your urine all over the floor in this case. Droog Design, one of the most exciting design collaborative working now in the design world, designing this double drain sink. And D-tiles are a type of tiles designed so that you can cover absolutely the whole surface of your bathroom. It becomes a sink, it becomes the frame of a mirror, it fits into corners and so on. It can become hanging devices or even little drawers that can be pulled out of the wall. They are sort of a complete system of tiles for bathroom. While those tiles, for example, are inserted with an heating device so that they warm up the room as they do their other function. Those styles here do that at the level of plumbing. The plumbing is in the tile, and water can be taken to various places like shower spigots and so on. And urinals have been redesigned in all kinds of interesting shapes as well. It's a very good thing to do, and covering toilets with Swarovski crystals, or joining two toilets together so you can have a conversation with a friend as you go about your business. Ole Jensen, another very exciting designer, has made this toilet with an intestinal reference. And then there are many artist toilets as well that are very important to consider. And Robert Arneson, one of the great innovator and radical artists in the funk movement starting in the early 1960s, made this art John, now at the Seattle Art Museum. And he made a whole series of toilets and urinal and sinks in all kinds of very interesting ways at that time. And this work, you can imagine, was extremely radical and confrontational and created a lot of controversy when it was made, but it was also very influential. He was one of the first to engage with issues of bodies, issues of sexuality and gender, and the abject and the repulsive in his work, and what is beautiful, and how do we experience and relate to those kinds of things, and what kind of meaning can be generated by that experience. Victor Sikansky with his Muja bathroom, an artist not working at all in ceramic but working in all kinds of other material like Claes Altenberg with his soft toilet and soft bathtub. Judy Chicago working within the context of feminist issues in toilets and bathroom here at the Women's Space Gallery in Los Angeles. Jeff Koons has made work around those issues. Nancy Skoglund, who is known as a photographer, with this photograph walking on eggshells, incorporating elements made out of ceramic. The toilet and the snakes are ceramic objects. Ai Weiwei, who also comes back again and again in all of those presentations, with his Alcatraz bathroom where he has filled implements in bathroom with thousands of porcelain flowers in the famous prison near San Francisco. Rachel Whitered making cast of the space occupied by toilets and sinks and reassessing the relationship between mass and volume implied in ceramics itself and sculptural contexts. And all kinds of other artists are reinserting references to toilets and sink into art contexts. Charles Ray, one of the most celebrated sculptor working now, doing an example of that here by combining glass, tub, and oil together and creating an impression of fragility and danger in the process. So what happens when you put a bathtub into an aquarium or sink it into the soil and cover it with grass and paint patterns on it or assemble it like a Brancusi column on the right? Robert Gober again, whose work I have introduced a bit earlier on, and reassessing our relationship to a sink by exaggerating certain elements of it. This is not work out of ceramics. This is plaster and fiberglass over metal and so on, but the ceramic reference is an obvious one. Or Wim Delvoye, another artist whose work has come back in other contexts and will reappear again later on, taking a photograph of his own shit and turning it into a pattern that becomes a decal that is then fused onto tiles and can decorate bathrooms. Wim Delvoye has also created the cloaca. It's a big machine that if you put food at one end, this is what comes out of the other. And it's quite interesting to consider how those issues, those very quite seminal and important human behavior issues, find their way into contemporary art in all kinds of ways. And I will continue to present you material from various artists. You may want to research further, as I say repeatedly. You may want to know what else Joana Vasconcelos of Portugal has done. This is our wonderful crochet of bathroom fixtures. And what are those artists doing, and what material are they using, and what is their work all about? It goes on and on and on. Again, many artists can access the resources of bathroom factories and porcelain factories to make work that they rework and recombine and add elements to create works that make you aware in a very new way of what happens in a bathroom, how those implements are meant to be used, what kind of reference do they imply, what if a urinal became a urinal and could be used by women peeing standing up. And bedpans as well are quite popular. All kinds of objects and implements used in bathroom or referencing bathroom, like a condom dispenser and disposer here, as we see on the left, or a toilet being reassembled as a group of 4. And celebrated British artist Sarah Lucas making a toilet around psychological issues like smoking or suicide, and making you aware of that great potential for those objects to engage with metaphors around the human body, and a meat toilet or a toilet becoming a teapot, acquiring a completely new and different function. A sink referencing penal institution in the context of sanitation, or a storm in a teacup by Paul Scott on the right. I've myself made those bathroom gesture tiles where on the tiles is drawn the image of a specific gesture, something one does in a bathroom. And I have reworked this idea in a variety of contexts for various bathrooms. This is an example of one here incorporating some color. And I've also had them carved to be cast into porcelain tiles in low relief. You have here 2 bathroom gestures done in such a way, and then 2 more here on the right. So as you spend time in the bathroom and activate it with your own gestures, you are exposed to those gestures represented on the wall of the bathroom itself. Now I have a section on prosthesis and prosthetic. And the Marek Cechula, whose work we see again and again in most, if not all, of those presentations, here with his Catology series on the left and Hygiene series on the right, with various references to the body and activities around bathrooms, around sinks, around drains, and all the connections between openings in bodies and how we use our bodies and how it functions can be inserted into a bathroom context, like this meditation bathroom or this confessional sink on the right, the wonderful pissoir of Kim Dickey, making it possible for women to pee standing up. Prosthetics for broken bone, incorporating porcelain and decorative elements, for neck problem and stabilizing bodies as it heals. I'm not saying that those prosthetics are necessarily functional, but they create wonderful jewel-like implements that extend the body, make you aware of its working, substitute for body parts, and create, again, new experience of expansion in terms of creating hybrids between tools and bodies. Implants in porcelain to repair bones actually exist in surgery and in medicine. And then there is something I discuss a bit further in the reading for this class, which is excrement and gold, and the relationship between gold and shit that you may want to consider as well as an extension of this lecture. And you have 2 examples of that here in the work of Marcel Wanders and then Ted Norton. And then also drains and passages, pots as digestive system. What happens when a vessel is open at both ends and can be penetrated from both ends like bodies are, and can, passages can start at one end and go through the other. And here you have the work of 2 artists exploring that in work that is in itself very intestinal in its shapes and forms. And then 2 other artists whose work we've analyzed in all kinds of contexts before, who make work that is closed at both ends. It doesn't have any opening at all except for breakages sometimes into the surface. So what happens when an object is closed and cannot be penetrated, and if there is anything inside, it cannot be removed from either end of the form. Now I have a large selections of work from the Kohler Art Center in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. The Kohler factory is the largest toilet and sink factory in the world in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and they have an artist residence program and an art center attached to it where artists coming from all kinds of fields have gone to work in ceramics. And of course, Anna G is one of the major ceramic artists working worldwide now, if you ask me. And she did the Sheboygan Men's Room. And this is what she did at this factory. You get access to all the resources of the factory. You get a private studio, a place to stay, a stipend for room and board, and you can spend a few months there and make anything you want with the resources of the factory. And she's created this wonderful bathroom, which is there. You can go there, you can visit, and you can actually use it. It's a functional space. All those bathrooms by various makers I'm showing you are functional space. They're meant to be used, they function properly, but they also engage with all kinds of other experiences around decoration, around architecture, around childhood and being a child, around being part of a family and what does that mean, and a bathroom specifically for women by Cynthia Consentino, and sometimes they go back and do a second version and so on. So there's quite a number of those bathrooms available at this art center in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, at the Kohler factory. And then artists who have been to the factory expand that approach to using those forms into their own practice in other sites, in other places, in the public art context, and one finds an expansion of those bathrooms in many places right now. And John DeFazio has gone to the Kohler Art Center and the Kohler Factory, and he has made the King's Throne for Elvis Presley, and then this monument to an Hallmark moment in which you can piss on Santa Claus on the right. Now I have a few more bathrooms. There are so many of them. There are bathroom and toilet museum all over the world, and people inserting bathroom fixtures in a very dynamic and excessive ways in all kinds of contexts. This is an example from Lebanon here, because toilets are substitute for human beings. Each one of them represents a different human being. This is a toilet museum in the shape of a toilet. And the Video Arcade Toilet in Portland, Oregon makes references to Pac-Man and to the Signature for Aliens at the Sci-Fi Museum in Seattle incorporates images of aliens and extraterrestrials. And this is my last image for today. It's a pooping Mao Zedong reading his famous little red book, and a sacrilegious approach to a very important political figure. So you can see how toilet and sinks and bathrooms play a very significant role in recent development in contemporary ceramic, and I hope you will find this lecture inspirational. See you next week. Thank you.